Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny sat in their hotel room and stared at a small glass jar. The label on the jar read Dulce de leche, and the syrupy substance inside had the thickness and color of caramel. The hotel clock read almost midnight where they were in Christchurch, New Zealand. It was very late for the four of them, especially 6-year-old Benny, who let out a big yawn. Normally, they would all be in bed, but a recent discovery kept them all awake.
"I can't believe Mr. Gannett is a spy,"
said Violet, who was 8 years old.
"Just think, our pilot. He's traveled to every stop with us and has been telling the Argents our every move. No wonder Anna Argent was able to find us." "At least it was Mr. Gannett and not Emilio,"
said Benny, thinking of the second of their two pilots.
"I like Emilio's jokes. If he was the spy, we wouldn't get to hear any more of them."
Henry, who was 14 years old and the oldest, agreed.
"We should call Trudy," he said. "Jessie, will you get your laptop and see if you can reach her on Skype? Do you think she's awake?"
Jessie nodded and unzipped her backpack. She was 12 years old, and she was the best among her siblings at using the laptop. Her skills had come in handy many times during their recent worldwide travels.
Let's see,"
Jessie said.
"If it's midnight here, it'll be 6 o'clock in the morning in Connecticut. We might wake her up, but I think this is important."
Jessie opened Skype and clicked on Trudy Silverton's name. She crossed her fingers and clicked the green button to start the call.
"Let's just hope Trudy has some good advice," Jessie said. "We only have one artifact left, and we're not going to let Mr. Gannett get in the way of returning it."
Violet glanced at the hotel dresser. Sitting on top was a small plastic box. It was safely locked, just like the other 5 had been. If the previous boxes were any clue, the last box would hold a precious artifact that had been lost. The Aldens had been sent by Trudy Silverton to return the boxes. She worked for a secret organization called the Reddimus Society, which made sense because Reddimus was Latin for "we return." So far, the Aldens had successfully returned 6 other artifacts. They had only one left, and the Aldens were determined to finish their task, even if one of their pilots was a spy.
"Hello, Jessie. Hello, Henry, Violet, and Benny."
Trudy's cheerful voice was a welcome sound. The Aldens gathered around Jessie's laptop so they could all see her and wave hello. It was very early in the morning where Trudy was, and her purple hair was a little disheveled. She was still in her pajamas.
"Good morning," Jessie said. "We're so glad you're awake. We have something important to tell you."
Even though Trudy looked tired, she seemed to be lively and alert.
"Do you?"
she asked.
"Very interesting. I wonder if it's related to the important thing I have to tell all of you. Why don't you go first?"
Henry lowered his voice, even though Mr. Gannett wasn't anywhere nearby.
"You remember back in Thailand when we found out one of our pilots was telling the Argents about our travels?"
Henry asked.
"Yes, you were all very clever,"
replied Trudy.
"We were clever again," Jessie said. "We found out which one of the pilots is the spy. Henry came up with a great plan while we were flying back to New Zealand from Antarctica. It's Mr. Gannett,"
Benny blurted.
"Mr. Gannett's the spy."
"I guess the explanation will have to be a story for another day,"
Henry chuckled.
"Well, that's great,"
Trudy said. Then she tilted her head.
"Well, it's not great that he's a spy, but it's great that you figured it out. Now we know he can't be trusted."
"And it helps Trisha too, right?"
Jessie asked. The children had recently learned that there was an investigation going on into thefts around the world. Because Trisha had been seen in the areas of thefts in Kenya, Italy, and Japan, the investigators thought she might be secretly working with the Argents. But now the Aldens could prove otherwise.
"Yes, I'll let Agent Carter know,"
Trudy said.
"We now have evidence showing it's Mr. Gannett who's working for the Argents, not Trisha. Trisha will be so relieved to hear the news, if I can ever get hold of her."
"What are we going to do about Mr. Gannett?" Jessie asked. "Can you send another pilot to take his place? If he stays as our pilot, he could make trouble for us when we try to return the last box."
Trudy shook her head.
"I'm sorry, I can't. Well, that brings me to the thing I have to tell all of you.